Namjoon, 13 June, year 22. I arrived at Jungkook's hospital room in the middle of the night. Jungkook seemed okay. He laughed a lot and talked a lot. I did too. We talked about the gas station, the weather, and whatever else, so we didn't have to talk about what was really important. Jungkook should have asked, but he didn't. He didn't ask why the others fought that night, why we left, and why we didn't come back. I was no different. I didn't tell him why I left our lodging without saying anything, and didn't ask Seokjin what problems he had with Taeyong. We just swallowed the questions that we should have blurted out. On our way back, Seokjin asked me if I was okay. Do you know you haven't said a word yet? I told him I didn't know, and I was sorry. I told him I was fine. We parted near the gas station. I looked around the night street just before I went into the gas station. It was desolate. The red "Do not walk" signal turned to a green "Walk" signal at the crosswalk. I crossed the street and walked along the railroad, the fourth container from the end. We had had a campfire here before we left for the sea. This was the first time I came here since that day. Dust rose when I opened the container door. I stood there for a while until my eyes got used to the darkness. From what I had heard from Jungkook, the others didn't keep in touch with each other. No one updated me about Taeyong, but nothing much could have changed. This container was the only place where Taeyong could have taken shelter from his dad. I knew it, but didn't drop by. It was exhausting enough to go back and forth between the library and the gas station. It was the truth and an excuse at the same time. Deep down inside, I might have been avoiding Taeyong. I couldn't afford to confront Taeyong. It was too emotionally exhausting. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I could see different corners of the container. They were filled with memories of us sharing our lives together. I told Seokjin that I was okay, but really I wasn't. Jungkook, who got into an accident, couldn't be okay. It couldn't be okay to just drown what happened that night all at once. If Taeyong and Seokjin hadn't got into a fight that night, if I had stayed with the others, if anyone had been with Jungkook, then there wouldn't have been an accident. But I said I was okay. I casually chatted with him as if none of it was my fault and tapped him on his shoulder, telling him to recover quickly. I said it like it was a word of blessing or advice or consolation. I hadn't changed a bit. I was always hesitant before asking questions and making choices at a fork in the road. Yoongi, 15 June, year 22. I woke up from a weird dream. I thought I heard someone knock on the door, but I couldn't hear anything after getting up. I must have heard it in my dream. What time is it? I picked up my phone, but the battery was dead. I connected my phone to the charger and got out of bed. My head ached and my shoulders felt stiff. The piece I had worked on until dawn was replaying again and again. I had been staying up all night for several days, but I still couldn't find the key to unravel the tangled notes. Maybe it was because of that piece replaying over and over again, but in my dream, I was roaming around in the fog, following a faint whistling sound. After a long time, I arrived at a garden of an apartment complex. There I found a piano key lying among thick bushes. The half-burnt piano key was covered with soil and rotten leaves. I walked into the garden and reached out for the key. Just as I had almost grasped it, the apartment complex, the fog, and the whistling sound all disappeared at once. The next minute, I was standing in the middle of this workroom. In the distance, I was sitting in front of the piano with Jungkook. Jungkook said something and I laughed. When was this? I couldn't recall the exact date, but this scene was imprinted on my memory as clear as day. There were many days I could clearly see the scene. All of a sudden, it became dark outside, and I was wandering through the night street. I was on my way back from the beach. I put my hands into my pockets as I talked about my work to Hoseok, and I felt the piano key with my fingertips. The dream continued on in this disjointed manner. Moments overlapped with one another, and fragments of memories piled up in a mess. I heard a banging sound at the entrance just as I turned off the music. Who could that be? I opened the door, but no one was there. I drank a cup of water and lay down on the sofa. The past few weeks had been a hectic merry-go-round. Everything just couldn't go smooth when composing music. It was hard to concentrate at first, and I was also not used to working with a partner. The woman was straightforward and outspoken. She popped in and out of my workroom whenever she felt like it. She never hesitated or beat around the bush when she evaluated my work. She took away my lighter when I tried to smoke and threw me a lollipop instead. She nagged me to sleep and eat. I couldn't argue with her because her performance and pieces were impressive, because her evaluation was accurate. That provoked me. I began to spend more and more time at my workroom. I lost my sense of time and became addicted to my work. I would stay up all night once I got down to work. I didn't answer calls or check my messages. All my nerves were on edge, and I didn't want to talk with anyone. I switched off the alerts for every chat app. Would I have turned out as skilled and talented as the woman if I hadn't wasted my time and had continued training in music? I wondered. I didn't want to fall behind her. This is really nice. That was what that woman said after listening to the unfinished piece yesterday evening. It was an upgraded version of what I had previously written. This is really nice. It felt as if I had heard the exact same words before. I was trying to call up the memory when she got her guitar out. Then she began to harmonize and play variations of the melody. I sat in front of the piano and played along. Don't forget, we are meeting at the hospital tomorrow morning. The woman packed her guitar and stood up about 2 hours later. I looked up at her with a blank face and she rolled her eyes. Then I remembered. She'd been giving free solo performances at hospitals and schools. She had told me last week to tag along to the next performance. I hadn't answered, but she finalized the plan on her own. She said she would call early in the morning and I should make sure to pick up the phone. After she left, I sat in front of the piano again. It wasn't bad, but it felt as if something substantial was missing. I distinctly remembered that I had almost grasped what it was the last time I worked on this piece. I made changes, but nothing clicked. I stood up from the piano bench, feeling pressure on my chest. Maybe I was putting too much emphasis on that something because it didn't come to me. Maybe it would be better to fine-tune the piece a bit more and stop waiting for that something. I looked out the window. The sun was coming up. My phone vibrated as it powered up again. She hadn't called yet. I lay down on the sofa. My phone rang after a few minutes. The name Jimin appeared on the screen. That instantly reminded me of a scene from my dream last night. A house was aflame. Someone asked me, "Is there anyone inside?" I answered, "No, there's no one inside." The scene shifted and I was sitting in Mom's unlit room. Mom was saying, "If I hadn't had you, if you hadn't been born." I don't know how I got from my workroom to the hospital. I was running up the stairs like crazy when I snapped out of it. The hallway was strangely long and dark. People in patient uniforms slid by. My heart kept throbbing. Their faces were pale like sheets and expressionless. They seemed dead. I could hear my heavy breathing in my head. I could see Jungkook in his patient uniform lying on the bed through the cracked door. He must be asleep, but he seemed as if he were dead. He almost died. The doctor said it was a miracle he was alive. It was that night we came back from the beach. Jimin's voice was still ringing in my ears. I turned my head. I couldn't look at him anymore. A multitude of images flashed before my eyes like a panorama. The flame that made a crackling sound in a drum at a construction site. Mom's room that had always been unlit. The sounds of the piano that came from the fire. Jungkook's back as he clumsily played the piano at the music shop. Jungkook lying unconscious on the empty street and the pain and fear he must have gone through as he lost consciousness. She said, "It's all because of you." She said, "If you hadn't been born." Mom's voice. Or was it mine? Or was it someone else's? I had been tormented my whole life because of those words. I wanted to believe that they weren't true, but Jungkook was lying there. He was lying in a hospital where patients roamed around like the living dead. If I had just ignored him and left the music shop, if I had just died in the flames, would none of this have happened? At that moment, the melodies of the woman's guitar penetrated my mind. The guitar sound overlapped the crackling sound of the blazing fire, the sound of the piano, and the countless other sounds. I covered my head and ears with both arms, but the sound of the guitar only grew louder. I turned and began to escape down the hallway. I bumped into passerby, but I didn't have time to turn around and apologize. They shouted curses at me. I didn't look back. I had to run away from that voice and the hallucination. My head ached. I had lost all my confidence. I ran down the hallway, faltering and staggering, and got out of the hospital.